Glitch Please, the show where we talk about video games every single week. I'm Ashley.
I'm Bryant.
I'm Adam.
I'm Bryan.
And
yeah.
Bryant's new.
Yes.
Bryant is a friend of ours. He's a local YouTube content creator here in Austin, so I like to invite him in. He's visited us in the studio before, but first time on Glitch Please.
Yeah, first time. Yeah,
welcome.
Excited to be here. Thank you.
It's a good episode for you to be on as well, because I understand you've been a No Man's Sky fan since launch.
Oh, big fan of No Man's Sky.
See, this is going to be quite a discussion then.
Yeah.
Because the new update came out, which we're going to talk about, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Huge changes for the No Man's Sky next update. There's also, this is kind of weird, it's a sort of like a changing of the guard news episode. We'll be talking about a former Bioware developer who explained really why Bioware isn't the same as it used to be. Valve developers also explained why Valve can't make games. And then Microsoft is getting ready. They're deep in architecture on their next generation of console hardware, as they have mentioned previously, like at E3. And new reports suggest that one of those versions of the future console won't be like the others. So we're gonna get into all that, but I wanna say a quick shout out before we do to our sponsor for this episode, MeUndies, because MeUndies is dope, and we're gonna talk about them a little bit later, more in depth. We can all talk about our favorite underwear patterns, but before we get into all of that stuff and make it all official, what have you guys been playing?
Dude, I'm stuck.
Besides No Man's Sky.
I'm stuck. I'm still stuck in Octopath. The chapter 3 to 4 grind is like, it's heavy. I got to like towards my end of my chapter 3 chapters, and I was like underleveled, and then I went up against Hanit's chapter 3 boss, which I won't say what it is, but dear God, is that a difficulty spike? I don't
Really?
know. Where are you in the game?
So I am through most of my chapter 2s, but I've been taking it easy. I have got sidetracked by No Man's Sky, and also just family divinity, which is a great problem to have. So I haven't had as much time playing Octopath as I would like to have. I'm constantly frustrated that I'm like, but games are my job. Why can't I just play them all the time? Why does it seem like I have less time to play them than ever? I thought I went into this for an advantage, but no.
So I've been doing a lot of grinding in that game. So there is something, the game, last week we talked about how the game is very mechanical and it doesn't really change throughout the entire game. There is something that adds to the game or spices it up a bit around level 50. I haven't gotten there.
I was going to ask you what level you were at.
I'm level like 48-ish with all my characters.
Talk to me, Goose. What's spicy?
Talking maybe some new abilities and stuff.
You talking subclasses, or are you talking divine abilities?
New jobs.
Okay, I did have, just completely by accident, and I knew that this was going to be a thing somehow at some point, because we talked about Octopus Traveler at some length last week. If you missed that, Octopus Traveler is a sort of a classic 2D-ish JRPG that's released for the Switch from Square Enix. It is a console exclusive. It really feels like a throwback to like the Game Boy, or something you would see on a 3DS, but scaled up to be like a console game. So it's what they call 2D HD 2D. In some order, some combination of that, where it looks like the whole thing's been tilt shifted, really distinct graphics. You have 8 different protagonists who each have their own story, but you party them up, and then you can go through each of their 4 chapter stories in really whatever order you like, although they do get more difficult as they go on. So you're incentivized to go through really all of them. Different characters have different abilities, but there's essentially 2 sets of 4. There's the cleric and there's the alchemist. There's the warrior and the hunter. There's the thief and the merchant. And I'm not naming 2 of them. There is the, hold on, the mage,
Scholar?
Dancer.
and the dancer. There we go.
Scholar.
Those ones, I guess, maybe don't match up quite so well.
No, so no, I think you can get it. It's the path abilities are dancer, cleric, because those are guiding, and then your hunter and your warrior have provoke and
I'm
challenge.
sorry. You're absolutely right. I was for some reason thinking of it as like healer.
And then,
Fighter.
Yeah, and then mage and alchemist both, or scholar and alchemist both have the ability to gain information from people, and then thief and merchant have the ability to get items from people, whether through stealing or buying.
You're completely right. I'm an idiot.
No.
Anyway, that's
There's a lot of abilities to keep track of.
That's the short version, sort of what you can expect from that game. It is a traditional JRPG in that there's a lot of sort of grindy, it's turn-based combat. You use each of the characters' abilities trying to strike at a weakness to knock down an enemy's armor so you can do extra damage.
Yep.
And as you go through each of the different areas, you'll find like new challenges, new stuff to unlock. Yeah. For some people, they'll just find money fucking everywhere. I'm
at a point where early 40s, you pretty much have unlocked all of your character's abilities, including their divine abilities, which is like their ultimate. And for the most part, you've unlocked their secondary classes' abilities as well. So there is a little bit of a lull there where you're not progressing towards anything. And I was just grinding, and I couldn't even find new gear. Like I leveled up probably like 8 times, and I went back to Hanit's boss. Still had trouble, but still beat it. But I didn't find any new gear in those like 10 levels or so.
Wow.
Yeah, there wasn't much. I will say, like, we talked about Kates last week, which are like the super rare spawns.
Yes.
Right, and I think I had seen one and didn't realize what it was.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've seen a couple
because they'll run away
since then.
immediately.
Yeah, so you basically get one attempt at an action. I did, because I love to spoil myself on things, look on the internet and find out that if you throw a shadow soulstone at them, that's guaranteed to hit.
Any soulstone.
So if you any soulstone?
Any soulstone. Medium soulstone will
knock
kill
them out. Yes, that'll do. The shadow one, I threw it and did like 11 damage, and it was like
which isn't
done.
Yeah. So there's actually three types of Kates. I don't know what all their
I didn't know that. I thought there was one.
So these also matter way less when you're higher level. So like in your mid 40s, they'll give you like a chunk of a level, not a big deal. Because every battle in your mid 40s, you're getting like 500 plus XP anyway, so 1,000 isn't really that much of a difference. But I ran into one where you can spawn all 3 Kates at one time. And I saw that and I'm like, holy shit.
A Kate super party?
All 3 Kates. And then literally the next battle, I had the same thing happen again. I have screenshots. There's your chubby Kate.
Oh my God, it's a Totoro Kate.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
That one is really hard to kill, but also
I've never seen it.
It's also, there's a way to capture those. It's really hard.
You can capture a Kate?
Yeah, they have really good buffs. They're really limited summon and everything, but they have really good buffs. I tried. I could only get it up to like 3% catch chance. And that is not a good enough chance, unless you're really lucky.
That hurts.
You know, the more and more I'm hearing about this game, I have to try it. I don't have a Switch, but it's like this game and you guys talking about it sounds like a fun time.
It's a fun chill out,
yeah,
grind, kill some enemies, fight some dudes.
It's almost like an MMO, like a single player MMO, in that like you can kind of do what you want, and there's quests, but it doesn't. If you're doing the individual ones, it points you pretty hard, but all the side quests and stuff, it just reminds me of like kind of a single player MMO. I do have one complaint about this game that I was finally able to verbalize. In a lot of RPGs, the cursor, like let's say you cast a spell, like an enemy's weak to fire, you have to manually go back every single time with your fucking character once you get back to go back to the fire spell instead of it
doesn't default to your last action.
Automatically defaulting. Yes, I feel like that's something easily fixable, but this is a problem that's been solved in RPGs.
Oh, that's super not a problem for me.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
Interesting though. I guess I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like
I'm always using different abilities though. Like I get if you're trying to harp on someone's weakness.
Right.
But.
It's not a massive thing, but
my only complaint with that whole system is when I like max boost something and I accidentally hit defend, that really fucks me up. Because there's no like confirm if you want to defend, you just waste your whole boost.
But you defended really good.
Are you sure you want to waste a turn?
Yeah,
Are you really sure?
What a fucking bummer that is. No, that game's really good. I'm excited to get to level 50, unlock some new subclasses and see what those are. Because that seems like the last like big
frontier.
Mix it up for the game.
Okay, so the one subclass that I unlocked, I was wandering around in the snow after Primrose's 2nd chapter, and I just ran, I just happened upon a cave, and I got really suspicious of it because when I went inside, it didn't tell me what the danger level was, and so I was creeping along, like just waiting for something gigantic to tackle me. And I got there, and there's just a shrine. It was like, ah, can also be a cleric.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a nice surprise.
Yeah.
They're like, take a break, just relax. It's fine. You're not gonna get hurt.
For once.
Yeah, exactly. For once.
But is that how all of them work? Are they all just hidden around in caves?
That's
or
how
are there different challenges?
the main 8 classes that are already in the game, like all the characters have. Those classes are all just hidden in chapter 2-ish areas in caves. And you'll always see those caves on a map. Like you don't have to actually find them because you'll see them if you're in an area with one. You'll see a marker for it in your minimap. But there's 4 other additional classes that are around level 50. Those you have to work for. You will find them in a cave, but you're not just going to walk up to a shrine.
That you are going to get punched on.
Oh yeah,
Can you main class them, or it's all subclass?
it's all subclass.
Okay.
As far as I know. I mean, I haven't gotten there, so who knows? But I think it's all subclass.
Although, so Brian, do
Yeah.
you play any sort of classic JRPG stuff?
No, not traditionally. The
None of the Golden Suns?
I tried Golden Sun back in the day, never really got hooked on it.
I got Claw from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the Game Boy is so tiny and like hold my hands like this, and I would just go, it hurts,
You know-
but I can't stop.
They need to make a fucking Joy-Con attachment that's the size of the Pro Controller. I don't care if it looks stupid. For my hands, if I could just slap on basically 2 halves of a
With
Pro
some
Controller.
handles.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck, man?
My Joy-Cons are wiggly, which I don't like.
Like,
Did
what,
you
like
drop?
loose?
Did you drop your Switch?
I put the black handheld, the wrist strap on it on the wrong way.
That'll do it.
And it like wiggles now. Not a lot, but just enough to.
You know what though, Bernie? So we did an unboxing of the Switch.
Oh, the
'cause
famous draw.
Yeah, well, because Nintendo sent us one early, which was really awesome,
Yeah.
and we were super excited about it. It did like 1 billion battery tests, all kinds of stuff, and that's apparently a thing that you can get
Hell yeah.
in Joy-Con
Love that.
DIY.
That's fantastic.
Nice, but. So we did an unboxing, and Bernie immediately put the Joy-Con grip on the wrong way.
Yep, that's what I did.
And then we spent 5 minutes going,
And then you have to
got it back off,
force it.
but it does not want to come back off.
No.
It didn't want to go on, but he was just like, maybe I'll just push it harder.
Yeah. Yeah, mine like wig, but
Bernie.
it's, yeah, I'm like, well, I'll just have to live like this. I'm not gonna get a new Switch.
My life now.
So
Yeah,
as far as JRPGs go, I mean, is this top 10 of all time?
I don't know I'm going to go
wouldn't say
that far, because
that.
there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are really good, and there's a lot of very different JRPGs. Like,
Okay.
you're talking about putting Octopus Traveler up next to like the top Final Fantasies, like Final Fantasy X, also turn-based, also party-based.
You're swimming
This
in a
is
deep pool.
this is probably the best that I've played on the Switch. I think the only other one I've played is Xenoblade, but some people might argue that.
Also, Xenoblade is a little bit different in that you
It's-
there's
it's less
different
traditional.
sub-varieties of JRPGs, right?
It's super anime.
It's funny that this game is out now. It's almost like trying to introduce a younger person to like hair metal, because it's like, oh, I've never listened to this at all, and it's like, oh, you don't understand. This is like what was on the radio back in the day. Like
Right.
these games were massive, sort of late '80s, early '90s, that heyday, and then on to like Final Fantasy VII. But yeah, they've sort of, they're much more niche now than they used to be, but it's fun. It's still a very old school style. It's very grindy. It's very, like you said, I mean, you kind of talk to everybody in the town, although they've streamlined that a lot in this game. You don't have to talk to every single
Yes,
Right,
yes,
they-
you do. You have to use your path abilities on it. You don't even have to talk to everyone. You just need to use 4 different abilities on everyone.
You just like robbing people.
Dude,
Adam.
it's so much fun.
Yeah, it
But at
is.
least they tell you who you can and can't interact with.
Exactly.
Like, there's a specific set of people
the little
who
speech
will have
bubble.
stuff.
Yes.
By the way, if you go to Goldport, do not get your reputation negative because you have to pay 100,000 leaves.
That's a lot.
Can I talk about something? I watched Ghost in the Shell yesterday.
Okay.
The one with Scarlett Johansson, and the one that people complained about a lot and thought was a terrible movie. Why do people hate that movie?
I think there was, there's a stigma against anime movies and anime adaptations.
Okay.
Just in general, there was the whole concern that there was whitewashing, that they
She's
should have
super.
gotten an Asian actress.
She's not playing an Asian person though. She's playing a robot. Have you watched the movie?
Yes.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a spoiler here. Like, her ghost was an Asian person, but the whole point is that her soul, her ghost, was put into a robot, which wasn't Asian. I thought it was it was.
It's not
well
like
done.
It's not
it wasn't like
a Last Samurai type.
Right,
thing,
right. Or what is that movie with Jared Leto where he joins the
Suicide
Yakuza? No. Anyways, but that movie has like amazing world building. It has amazing like sets. It has amazing props.
That's true, but it's also, that's not like original world building. It is building on a universe.
I'm just talking about like visually in the movie, how well they've done. And also, like, wasn't that bad of a movie. But what I will say is that the thing I was noticing
Put
was
that
how,
on the box. It's not that bad.
was
Not
so
that
similar, like the demo I watched for Cyberpunk was so similar to that movie. First off, the V they played in the Cyberpunk demo is a female. You have this big bruiser of a buddy, and that's like the same as Bato? Bato, whatever. And then he's also driving like a fast like supercar, driving around. Like it's so similar. Like those games like are like a mirror of each other. Not really, but like very close similarities.
But they hit a lot of the same cyberpunky beats.
Yeah. Also, I would really appreciate it if someone in the control room could pull up a picture of Bato next to the guy from Lost Boys, Kiefer Sutherland, because they look the same.
Oh, really?
Dude, it's unbelievable. Anyways, like that movie, and I can't wait for Cyberpunk. We haven't talked about Cyberpunk in so long. I figured we need to talk about Cyberpunk.
I think
You brought it back. I like it.
I think the issue with any type of adaptation like that is it comes to the same thing with gaming, right? We all have these beloved characters that we love and we've grown up with, read about or watched on anime, and then to see someone else's take on it, it's always going to have that pushback. Like, prime example, last week we had that fantastic Uncharted video come out with Nathan. I'm a diehard Uncharted fan. We don't need an Uncharted movie. We've had 4 great Uncharted games, and I feel like the stories that I've seen and the stories I've interacted with just don't feel like it's exactly needed at this point.
Yeah, although they are working on like an official Uncharted movie, right? And that's supposed to have what, Tom Holland? It's supposed to be like young Drake.
Bizarre. I love Tom Holland. That's a weird choice.
You know, I feel like they're
choice.
trying to do young Indiana Jones, but like not Shia LaBeouf.
Nathan Drake crying in high school that nobody will kiss him.
Yeah, I did hear it pitched one way.
How dare you? Tom Holland is a gem.
Yeah, but best Nathan Drake, I just, that's the part that I'm struggling with.
Here's Nathan Drake getting stuffed in a locker and having to crawl his way out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what.
But there were those young, were they flashback sequences in 4?
Yeah.
Where you played as a younger. That was. Yeah. I actually like those.
Me too.
That game was fucking good.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the part that got pitched to me.
Here we go. Up on.
Come on. They look the same.
That's actually same hairstyle.
I was watching this and I was like, holy shit, Kiefer Sutherland.
I dig it.
I can see it.
Yeah. They're the same person. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Now I'm distracted. Now I'm just thinking about Kiefer Sutherland and Lost Boys. Whew. All right.
Well, I have something, talking about games we've played. I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, but I finally beat Doom. So
nice.
The most
Doom
recent,
2016?
Yes. So after E3, the announcement of Doom Eternal came out. I've had a friend who's like, you gotta play this game, you gotta play this game. Finally played it, beat it, and it did have kind of a little bit of a learning curve for me. Like the playability wasn't super smooth, but as soon as you got into it, it was literally just combo after combo and run and gun, and it became a lot of fun. So I definitely see why people like that game.
Yeah, you know, and that's not the first time I've heard that. Bernie as well, he had gone, he'd played it, he was like, I don't know that I'm really feeling this, went away, played something else, eventually came back to it, and then I guess got past that point and loved it.
Yeah.
But it seems like for some people there is a tipping point on getting used to how it plays.
I got really far in that
subtle.
game, and then like I got past like hell or into hell and stuff, and there's something about when the momentum slows down, my momentum to want to play it slows down too. And like if you're like, oh wait, where do I go or something like that, that's when I'm like, whatever.
Well, and also in the beginning, you don't have your double jump, and then you also don't have another part of your exosuit at that point. So it's like, it's this super slow paced, and in a world where we have like Titanfall, where you're like literally running and gunning, and Call of Duty, where you're fast paced, to come to this, it was just kind of like, oh, this is pretty slow. I got to change the pace up for this game. So it was still fun.
Solid game.
Yeah,
also, that first opening when you have the shotgun, you pump it to the song.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
That was the part that I definitely enjoyed, was the rock music that would, like, you get into these heavy battles and I have headphones on, and they're just blaring and going, and it's fantastic.
Now, Bryan, I understand you've been playing real life GTA.
Yeah, so I had a friend who earlier this week went to the doctor, and it turned out to be a little bit of an emergency situation, so he had to go to the hospital like immediately, but it ended up he's fine, but he had to leave his car in the doctor's office. So it was there overnight. And then he called me, he was like, hey, can you just go check my car to make sure it didn't get towed? And I was like, that would be kind of a dick move for the doctor's office to tow your car.
Be like, oh, you're sick, huh? Well, this should be fun.
Yeah, let's double down on your problems.
Yeah, well, guess what? You can't park here for more than 10 hours.
The doctor runs the tow company, so he's getting you on both sides, yeah.
Exactly. So last night I got home from work, and I looked it up, and the doctor's office was it's close to my house. It was like 2 miles away, so I'm like, I'm just gonna walk to the doctor's office, get the car, like I got his keys, I'm gonna get the car, drive it back to my house. So I did, and I hadn't walked.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah, and it felt like a real-life GTA mission, as close as I'm gonna get to doing that, and it did feel like the parts in GTA where it seems sort of innocent at first and like, oh, I'm just gonna go get a car, and then like at some point I'm gonna realize it's stolen, and then like 5 gangsters are gonna be chasing.
Did you get any weird phone calls on the way there? Like guys need to swing by afterwards?
Yeah.
Right.
Your cell phone's blowing up like 24/7 like it does in the game.
Let's go bowling.
I can't wait to play that game. I want to play that game again. All of a sudden, you just made me want to play it. Thanks.
It was fun. But in my mind, it was like, oh, this is like a little mission I've got to go into. And I did it, and I opened up the car, and I it was very uneventful. I mean, I just walked somewhere. But like, it's funny to me like how, at least in a city like Austin, where everyone drives, that you don't like walk around a city that much, unless you're like downtown or something. So you definitely get like a street level view of everything. Like there were these people eating out of a food truck. There were like all these people at a bus stop. Like there was a little bit of an altercation I passed by. Like it was just cool. Like it felt like, oh, this is like, I'm getting like a real.
You got the city noises.
Exactly. Yeah. Like
it's like pretty immersive game.
Yeah, totally. It's a great MMO that everyone should play. I recommend it. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and also been playing a lot of No Man's Sky, and Enter the Gungeon just had like a new update. I got it for Switch. I had enough coins saved up that like it's on sale, and I had enough coins so it was like $2.
Yeah, dude, I did too.
It was great, and so that is a fun. I'm not a huge roguelike person, but just bullet hell, constantly upgrading your guns.
That game sucks with the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
So you play that with the Pro controller?
I've only played it with the Joy-Cons, and then I stopped because I was like, I want to play games in bed, and this sucks.
Right.
Like anything you have to use you have to rely on that right thumbstick for.
Yeah.
For me, I have giant hands.
Yeah.
It sucks.
You can remap the buttons because I didn't like where the dodge roll. There's sort of a jumping dive roll thing that you really need to use to avoid a lot of tricky situations. You can remap the buttons, so that's good. But it's just it's a really well done indie game, which the Switch is getting a little crowded. There's getting to be a lot of crap on it on the eShop, but this is and it's on sale now, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they need to make some parsing tools for that store.
Oh,
The discoverability is not great, and I'm really concerned that they want to be putting dozens of new indie games on the eShop every week. On the one hand, look, more selection is great, but there's really no way to discover.
I need a Nintendo seal of quality on games.
Do they have a ranking system in their store?
They have a bestseller list. That's about that. But it's like
who knows if that's like?
Yeah, I can only scroll through so many 2D pixelated Metroidvanias. Yeah. Like there are 80 of them right now.
Because that's the good side of the Steam side, right? Because like you can search $5 games, and then you can put, oh, I only want 5-star reviews, and genuinely you can find a good game out of there.
And this is where I feel like sites like Metacritic kind of fall down a little bit because it seems like everything is like in the mid to lower 80s, and it's like I don't know if that's good or not because I've been burned by a few of those, and it feels like every game kind of gets like upper 70s, lower 80s, unless it's a complete piece of shit, and then it's down on the bottom, or it's universally great.
That score means you might have a potential to like this if you have a specific taste.
Absolutely.
Potentially. We'll think about it.
It feels like sort of like it feels like grade inflation, like the old Nintendo Powers where like even a shitty game would get 3 stars. Right. But that's what I'm playing.
Cool.
You know what I I'm kind of disappointed doesn't have a release date for the Switch, though, is Guacamelee 2. Did any of you guys play Guacamelee?
Oh, yes.
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 Okay. Thank God. I know we did play it for a patch game club at one point, and but I played it when it came out, and then I played the Super Turbo Championship Edition. I think I was going for 100% on that. I'm not sure if I did it.
Yeah.
I should check that.
Wii U port.
If I didn't, I'm in big trouble because all my skills will be gone. But they announced Guacamelee 2 that's coming out this fall. Super excited about it, but it doesn't have a Switch date, and it's a Metroidvania. So if you aren't familiar with Guacamelee, it's really cute. It's a side-scrolling Metroidvania style game. You play Juan, and you have to save the mayor's daughter. You go into the underworld, and then what's really cool about it is that you can sort of switch back and forth between the world of the living and the world, land of the dead. And there are sometimes there's different geography across the two, so you may need to start a leap, switch over, and then there's a platform to land on, or a rope that you can grab, or something. And so you find yourself, as you are going through these crazy platforming stunts, also having to manage your world. And there's a co-op in it. You can play as the second character, Tostada, and it's this game. It was so fun. I'm really looking forward to the second one. Super, super excited about it. But as a Metroidvania, it also seems like a fun kind of game to have on the Switch.
Oh, yeah.
And they've said it's gonna be, but not yet. And I love it, and I don't want to wait.
Right.
So am I gonna play it twice? What am I gonna do? I'm a sucker. I probably will, yes. But still.
See, this style of game, in my opinion, is like designed for that handheld Switch experience. Because I first played Guacamelee when it was free on the Vita. I think it was like part of the PS Plus weekend package, and I was like, "This is fantastic." It was like the combination of fighting and then swapping between the dead world and the real world, and it's a fun game. So to hear that it's not coming to the Switch either tells me that PlayStation has some form of grasp on that there's a timed exclusive, or have they announced that yet?
It's coming out for PC and PS4 on August 21st, so less than a month.
So maybe a timed console exclusive, that kind of thing does happen, and if it is the case, it could be 6-month window. I would be surprised if it was anything shorter than that, or a year, or if you're a No Man's Sky, 2 years.
Yeah.
There also need to be way more characters based on luchadors.
Yeah.
Like, that is the cool, I don't know why there's not more. I'm a huge wrestling fan, so like Lucha Libre, I've been a fan for years, but the Masked Wrestler is such a cool hero. Like,
we're opposites.
So, really?
I can't stand it. I don't know why.
What?
Okay, I shouldn't say I can't stand it. It just doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
Like luchadors or wrestling?
Probably luchadors. I haven't been into wrestling, but I've been told that I need to be into wrestling.
There's like a.
Have you watched Glow?
Grace is like, watch Glow so we can watch season 2.
You need to do this thing.
I haven't done it.
You need to listen to Grace. She is a smart lady. So Glow is about like an 80s California, like, late night network ladies wrestling show that they made, but it's
based on a real wrestling.
Yeah, like it's an actual based on a real thing. But it's got Allison Brie. If you need an additional motivation, you do see your boobs. Look, I'm just saying.
Wow.
I'm just saying that works for people. I was like, hello, and then I was like, look, it's Annie's boobs. Community, but it's. Mark Maron's in it. He's really great.
Oh, he's so good.
This like the role that he was meant to play is what it feels like. And every character in it has great development. It's really awesome. And one of the characters in it also doesn't understand wrestling, and then makes the switch.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
I could relate to that character maybe. One day. There's another Metroidvania game coming out next week called Chasm. I've been waiting for this game for so long. It got kickstarted like years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, many years ago, 100 years even.
100 years ago.
We're gonna invent computers, and we're gonna have
people rode their horses to the town and said, "I would like one Kickstarter."
Yeah.
Once World War I is over, we will make this fucking game.
If you haven't looked at Chasm, that's a game that I will be talking about a lot next week. Are we having a Glitch Please next week?
We are. So next week, next weekend is RTX Austin. We hope to see you there. It's going to be absolutely amazing. It's August 3rd through 5th here in Austin. We are going to have a Nobody's Happy Hour like we did last year, where we're all going to meet up on, I think, Friday afternoon, like Friday evening. We just like walk across the street to one of the pubs, and we all just have a drink, chat. We did it last year, and it was really nice to just talk to the No community, really chill. And we're going to be doing panels for the No. We will have a Glitch Please there. We don't treat it as an episode, but we will be doing a panel there. We may release it as a supplemental episode, like a special bonus.
Be the first live Glitch Please.
Hey.
Hey.
Ooh.
Man, if we can get an afternoon time slot, I'd love to start streaming this show. But morning is a terrible time for a stream.
Right. That'll be fun because we've got the No panel. Then we're gonna go out and drink with fans, and then I'm on that kind of funny stand-up show later that night.
That's what you need. You need
so
that,
I will not be sober.
You need that lubricant to. I mean, maybe you don't, but I would. Getting on stage in front of people, man, it's terrifying.
I do worse when I've been drinking. I don't feel like as sharp anymore because after I've been doing it 10 years, so it's like you don't really get nervous anymore. But I'll just be a little slower. But I'm prepared to make that sacrifice.
Perfect.
To hang out with our fans.
Yeah, so we will have a regular episode of Glitch Please next week that we'll be recording on Thursday before it all kicks off. And then we'll have an episode the following week as well. It'll all be pretty regular, but there may be some bonus stuff in there as well that we put out. It's gonna be a big weekend. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's gonna be awesome.
Super excited.
Yeah.
But like Thursday, in 1 week, we'll have another episode.
Yes.
Perfect.
That will then release for first members on Friday and for YouTube and everyone else on the website as well on Saturday.
I'll see you there.
Okay. All right. Bye, Adam.
Is Chasm PC? Is that?
Chasm is PC and PS4.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell
It's
us
a
about it.
really, I mean, there's not much to tell other than it's a really adorable fantasy Metroidvania. Like the attention to detail and all the animations, it's like, it is gorgeous. And I don't know like how much depth it has or anything, but we will find out soon.
Awesome.
I'm super excited.
How long was it kickstarting for?
Dude, it's been kickstarted for like, I think 5 years.
Oh, wow.
I'm seeing here the first estimated delivery date was May 2014, and I guess it's coming out summer 2018.
So it's a
So
Kickstarter.
they've had some development problems, but they're coming out with a finished product, I hope, and it's gonna be good. I hope. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
If not Death's Game, it comes out on August 14th, then we can play that. That's another
Yay.
fantasy Metroidvania. God, I'm so excited. Metroidvania is one of my favorite categories of games.
Big time.
I'm a little bit bummed that we don't get Ori 2 this year. But
Me too, but
since
that
we
game
do
can take
have
its time,
so
'cause I
many,
want to cry right now.
oh, good heavens. Every single time I start it, first 10 minutes, blip. I always say it's the video game version of Up.
That game
That's a nice comparison.
that game gives you sad cries. But I haven't had any game. This is an adult thing for me. I've never had a that's so touching cry before until I became like 25ish. Then I started watching animal videos and being like, it's so cute. Sucks. But anyways,
I tear up anytime I see like commercials about puppies or anything really. I'm a crier.
Yeah.
don't follow the dodo on Twitter because they're.
What's the dodo on Twitter?
They are an animal-centric Twitter that posts about stories about animals that are very touching. Some of them are just like cute, quirky animals with their friends, and that's awesome. Some of them are like, we found this puppy that was in dire straits and almost dead. And it's like, I see that, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
But it's always by the end, they're better.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's really, man, if you just want to cry a bunch, go to that Twitter. Love you, Dodo.
You want to start Tuesdays with tears.
If you want to make everybody in your office uncomfortable, check out Dodo.
Yeah, but they are definitely split between like, oh my gosh, this is so cute to, oh my gosh, this is so sad and cute.
It's sad but happy.
Yeah, like it's
Happy ending?
You sympathize for the animals, but it generally is a happy ending.
Good to know.
I'm definitely like whenever one animal like rescues another animal or like a human,
become
or
friends?
A human, yes, that or like they pull a baby out of traffic
Yeah.
or something. That one always gets me.
Like a human baby out of traffic?
I don't know if that's actually exists, but you know what I mean. Like there's like the dog like gave his owner CPR and then called 911, and you know it's like good for you.
Good job, dog.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a clip of a dog rescuing a baby from
Oh,
traffic.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Somewhere on the internet that exists.
Totally.
And we could talk about dogs all day.
Yeah, we could.
Yep.
I got back in my treadmill game.
Woo!
Doing the Persona again. I can't do it tonight because I walked too much and now I have blisters. I got
Blisters on
my
my fingers.
Yeah,
Is that it?
my twisty toes. My twisty toes got.
Dude, do
they
some
got
medical
calluses.
tape.
And well, they built up calluses, but I've been walking, hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and it's been 100+ degrees here in Austin, and so it's very, very hot. My treadmill is in the garage, so there's no air conditioning. I can point a fan at myself, and it helps bring the temperature down a little bit. But I'm still, at the very least, dealing with mid-80s if the garage door has been closed all day.
You've got a video game set up, but no air conditioning.
Look, I have my priorities.
You gotta migrate that treadmill, dude.
No, I will say that I like it. Doing it in the heat does bring my heart rate up. I sweat more, so in that respect, I kind of get more out of the workout.
You also can get heat stroke.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
there's
those people
treadmills
that
also
wear
work.
garbage bags.
there are risks. Yeah, but I haven't really had any huge issues.
Yeah.
But because I'm sweating more, I think I'm having more trouble with my poor little toe calluses. So I got to take a little break, and I don't want to because I'm getting back into my momentum with the game, and I don't want to stop.
I'm blown away that you can actually walk on a treadmill and play a game at the same time. I do not have, when I'm playing Pokemon Go on the street, I am running into signs, into trees and stuff, and
Well, they don't
tripping
have.
over.
They don't
There's
have
no
those on.
sign.
Yeah, that's true on a treadmill. Yeah, you're not.
I didn't
That's
get one
the
of the ones that
deluxe
has
mod.
obstacles built in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's very specific to the type of game. I couldn't play a shooter. I really don't think I could play anything in first person. Even third person can be a little bit dicey if it's just over the shoulder, but you're still going around. Bernie can do first, third person, no problem. I find I just walk off the treadmill, so I tend to play more games where there is grinding because I'm playing Persona. I played the first Ni no Kuni on the treadmill.
Okay.
Those sorts of RPGs, especially if it's turn-based combat, is nice because then you don't need to be worried about the direction so much. And Persona is anyway half like visual novel-y. There's a lot of dialogue that you're reading out between the different characters, and you're like, what do I want to do today? I'm gonna go read a book. I'm gonna go hang out with this person, and then once if you're going into the different, into the metaverse, into the different palaces or into mementos, you get into combat, and then it's turn-based, so you're not really having to aim anyone there. So it's a lot friendlier if you're a walk off the treadmill type, because I get that. But it's also something you get used to.
Yeah.
When I started doing Ni no Kuni, I was walking like 2.5 miles an hour because I was like, I can do it. It's all about just putting in the time, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm up to like 3.5, so I can do a fast walk and just have it.
So you're doing this on the Switch, or
PS4.
PS4? Okay.
I have a whole setup.
Okay.
So there's like a display stand with a TV on the top and a shelf that I've got an Xbox
nice.
and a PS4 on.
So you're holding the controller and doing
Yep.
all that? Wow.
Yeah, it's a solid setup.
Yeah.
A big fan. Really like it.
Do you think we'll see like how video games have been like entering culture, that we'll start getting like video game centric gyms? Like I know you do VR workouts. Are we gonna get like treadmills with
There's a Mario
PlayStations?
themed parkour gym, I think.
In Austin?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think in Austin. I think is that maybe in LA? But it's it's a cute parkour gym that's just all themed Mario style. I like it.
There's a treadmill, or sorry, like a stationary bike that works with VR, and you play games while you're riding the bike.
That's awesome.
And there's different things, like you could be flying an eagle, or you can be like flying a spaceship, or whatever. But it's all dumb and fun, and they're moving that way. I think maybe once we get like AR headsets to the point where they're just glasses, I think we'll start seeing all that sort of stuff in gyms like playing games that don't exist.
Because
nerds.
cardio is something that a lot of people just have trouble with. Because cardio, it's
boring.
The more you can get out of your head, the better.
Yeah, and
Right.
What's that one game people play, like the running from zombies one?
Zombies Run.
Simple name. Yeah, that's another one. I've never tried that, but I've done Couch to 5K. That's not a game. They just bark at you.
That's why podcasts are great.
Yeah.
But yeah, video games would be more fun.
Yeah.
Because they're more fun.
I used to listen to the Harry Potter audiobooks
Yep.
when I was doing
that's
runs.
Good. Yep.
So there are options, but I agree it would be really cool to have like AR. VR headsets are just unwieldy for that kind of thing, but once it's all streamlined and you don't have to have a huge thing with like all the weight on your head, I think some AR games for cardio would be absolutely amazing.
It's also going to be an expensive injury. That if someone has a VR headset and just like falls on the treadmill and $400, $500 for that headset right there. So
when AR is pretty close. We're getting like Magic Leap is getting to market pretty soon. There's already some devices that are sort of on the market, but we're getting pretty close to like the general public being able to adopt it. Do you think you'll ever be on board with always wearing a VR headset or AR headset? Excuse me. Like just in your general life, like, oh, you have a heads-up display for whatever.
Potentially, but did you ever see that hyper-real video on YouTube?
The one with all the ads?
Yeah, so it was sort of a conceptual visualization of what a world might look like with persistent AR. And it was, they start out, they're on a bus, they're playing a game, and then they get up and they've got like all these flashing like heads-up displays. Here's the direction, here's like on the sidewalk, here's where the lanes for walking this direction, here's the lanes for walking this direction. There's ads popping up all over the place. You get in the grocery store and like you got your little pet that's just like hanging around in the world with you, but is totally virtual. And so there's a lot of really cool stuff, but it is also an advertiser's wet dream.
Right, that's some black.
I worry a lot about that. So this is the video, the hyper real video, and there's a lot of upsides to it. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Again, spending time out of your head.
Oh wow.
The concern, of course, being that you would never ever interact with anyone ever again because there's all this escapism, and you're spending, we'll never just strike up a conversation with a stranger because you'll be busy in your own world.
Yeah. That feels like some Black Mirror type shit.
Yeah.
It is. It's pretty crazy. Like there's so much stuff there.
I think I would
so
be
busy.
an early adopter of AR.
I know that.
I bet you would.
I know that augmented reality like contact lenses exist, and there's like a really interesting Popular Science article on the different levels of like where we would be at with these like contact lenses. Like level 1 would just be like multifocal contact lenses or like curing color blindness. And then level 2 is something that's currently being worked on, which is like gathering information for your body and displaying like glucose monitoring for diabetics. And then 3 would be more like augmenting your vision with digital overlays and like, say you're driving and you can see like your miles per hour just all via your contact lenses. But they've appeared at CES before.
Yeah, I would like the in real life heads-up display thing.
Yeah.
The thing you said that struck me was virtual pets. And I was just thinking like how weird that would be to like the person without AR is just all these random people just sitting there just petting random objects and you're just like, what is going on?
As much as I like pets and animals, I would never I've never been on board with virtual pets. Like you had the robots pets growing up.
Did you ever have the ones that would live on your desktop? It was like a widget that you would have to download.
The little paperclip?
Those were like
everybody had that.
No, there was like I remember there was one. I mean, this is probably early aughts.
Yes.
And you would download it, and I think my mom got like a monkey or something. It was a little monkey that would like live on the desktop.
They really?
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Yes.
You should have seen the number of toolbars I had to uninstall from that woman's browser. Just said yes to everything. But I know that was a thing for a while. I don't really see it anymore. But for a while, downloadable pets that lived on your desktop was a huge thing. And I could absolutely see that it's scratching the same itch as the Tamagotchis and all that, but just like there in your vision and being adorable. Yeah. And with the AR kind of stuff we're seeing, Pokemon Go made huge improvements to their AR. So if they are working sort of on that level and it's sort of in the world that way, it's good enough for a lot of people. So, I don't know about you guys. Been played a lot of No Man's Sky.
A whole lot of No Man's Sky.
Think we should talk about it because the next update dropped. But before we do, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, MeUndies. You guys, look, we talk about MeUndies a lot. They've sponsored the show several times. They're the fun, comfy undies. They feel as good as they look, and they're awesome. So if you haven't tried them yet, listen up. You can get incredible underwear sent to you, to your door, directly with MeUndies, so there's no more hunting around for the perfect pair at a crowded store and just like pawing through piles and piles and then going, I guess these will do. MeUndies are made with a sustainably sourced material from beechwood trees, so you can be wearing a tree on your butt. Their naturally soft fiber makes a fabric that doesn't sag down or ride up. It doesn't stretch out throughout the day. It always stays nice and tight. Trust me, you put on a pair, you get it. MeUndies are so sure you're gonna love your first pair. If you're not happy, they'll do whatever they can to get you into the right pair, and if they can't, you know what? keep them. They don't want them back, and they'll refund you. So it really is risk-free to try the best underwear ever. If you're already part of the MeUndies family, tell your friends about it through their referral program. They get a discount, you get store credit. Win-win. Everyone is in awesome undies. If you're still not sure, MeUndies does have a deal for our Glitch Please listeners. First-time purchasers get 15% off their first pair of MeUndies with free shipping. So it's 15% off plus free shipping and a guarantee that you and your MeUndies will live happily ever after. So to get 15% off your first pair with free shipping and a 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/glitch. That's MeUndies.com/glitch. Today brought to you by Pandas. They have so many fun ones. They've got color block, they've got pandas, green army men, they've got paint splotches, they have different underwear every month. Like they've got like a special underwear, and you're like, ooh, I have to get this most special underwear. It's awesome. They're dope. And they have a bunch of different cuts too, because some people are like, I like boxer briefs, I like bikini briefs, I like boy shorts, I like thongs. They've got all their different undies in a bunch of different patterns, and they're great. Highly recommend. I love these guys. They have taken over my underwear drawer. Okay, with that said, let's talk about No Man's Sky and its next update. All right, so fun fact, we were sent that glitch. It's awesome. Someone got a big old freighter or something, and they got stuck in the geometry. There are still a few bugs in the game. It happens, but earlier this week, on Tuesday, Hello Games dropped the No Man's Sky Next update. The game also hit Xbox One, so a bunch of Xbox players are able to hop in for the first time. This is almost 2 years after the game initially launched. It came out August 2016. When the game came out, as I'm sure everyone remembers, there was a lot of disappointment going around because people thought there would be multiplayer. People were expecting dinosaurs running around in lakes. They were expecting all basically like the crazy terrain planets that had been shown in the trailers, and what the game actually released with was not at that level. So there's huge backlash. A lot of people refunding the game on Steam, on PS4. People were sending Hello Games death threats because the planets didn't have butterflies.
Normal move.
Yeah.
Definitely something a sane person would do.
Yeah.
You know, and I get it. I got the game when it came out, as many of us did. Yep. I played it, and I kept playing it for a while, waiting to see when it was going to become the game that was from the trailers, and it didn't. So it was a very rough time for people who are disappointed with the game as it released, and also for the development studio, who basically went radio silent. They stopped tweeting, they stopped talking, which in my opinion was a pretty solid move, because talking kind of got them into this trouble in the first place. There's this talk of, grand visions and all the things you'd be able to do, and how you would be able to find people, but it would be difficult and rare, and you would only know what you looked like when you saw another character, because it was all first person. And then it turned out that you still wouldn't find out what you looked like because you couldn't see other people, because that wasn't a thing. And overall, it was a really rough time. So they shut up.
Yep.
They shut up, and they started working on updates to the game. They released some patches, a couple of very big updates. They started with what they called their foundation update, which was sort of the start of their content roadmap, their foundation, if you will, for future content. And that's the one that added base building, I think.
Base building, yeah.
Was that when the terrain manipulator came in, I'm assuming?
The terrain manipulator came in, I think, the third update. Yeah. So the first update was Foundation, that was base building, so you could sort of set up shop on a planet, and they made it easier to traverse a little bit, because so much of the game initially was you would just planet hop, you'd go planet to planet to planet, and then you would basically, you leave and you would never go back, and all of the information that you had discovered would be erased in bit anyway. And so there wasn't really any reason to stick around anywhere. So they added this base building so that you could set up shops somewhere in the universe, create your corner, build it out, have all the stuff that you needed, and get back to it easily. So that was step one. And Then step 2 was there's Foundation, and then there was Pathfinder, and that's the one that added vehicles, like planetary exploration vehicles. So now you got your base, and now you have an easy way to traverse on the planets without having to get in your ship and then launch it and then go a couple hundred clicks or whatever and land it again. And you're just like, oh, okay, well, now, oh, great, now I'm out of launch thruster fuel, and now I've got to deal with this whole thing again. So they had that. There were a couple different types of vehicles. There's like a cute, nimble little thing that didn't have a whole lot of storage, but could zip across water, which is pretty awesome. And then there was your mid-range. I think it was your SUV. You know, it can get around. It can go over the hills and stuff. Probably not water, but it's got more storage. So
it can climb walls.
Trade-off. It can climb walls. Yeah. And then there was the big one. What do they call the big one? It's like a Gigantor or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was big. It's a big storage one. So it's going to move slow. It's not nimble, but it's got a big trunk. Yeah. So that was the second update. That was the big thing in the second update. The third update was Atlas Rises. There they added the beginnings of multiplayer. So it wasn't super sophisticated yet. They were clearly still working on it, but it was stair-stepping. You could see and interact with other players. They were just floating orbs, and there was local voice chat. And so if you could get in the same location, you could kind of interact and go on adventures with your friend Orb. You know, so it was the start. That was the third one. What else was in the third
Freighters?
update?
So in between those updates, freighters got added, and then you also had the addition of like a small, I think it was like a 2-hour story, where they sent you on quests to get people to actually work in your base and give you new upgrades and stuff like that. But that was pretty much everything that led up to this new next update for us.
Yeah. So this next update, and it's called No Man's Sky Next.
Yeah.
It added full multiplayer, unless you're a GOG player. We'll get into that. So you can meet up with friends. You have a body now. They introduced a third-person perspective, and in fact, that's sort of the default when they start you in a new game now. It's like, look, third person. And I actually kind of dig the third person.
Me too.
It took me a little bit to get used to it. What about you guys?
It took me some time. Because the cursor is kind of offset a little bit, I find that I have to look off to the left of something.
And you walk up
because
and
that's how you focus on it. It goes based not on what your character is looking at, but where your cursor is, which is not exactly the same place.
I'm definitely into the first person more, mainly because it's just like it's more intuitive for when you're mining and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I will say I'm playing on PC now because I wanted to see how it looked on PC, but also the ability to change your FOV is so important in that game because I don't know if you're playing on PS4, but it feels like you have no peripheral vision at all.
Yeah.
I'm playing it on PC. I will say though that keyboard mouse,
terrible.
Not this game's strength.
It's terrible.
Don't do that. I was trying to just struggle through the controls for a while and then decided that I didn't actually hate myself, and so I plugged in a controller. And the controls are much more intuitive that way.
Yeah. The moment I found out that this game was not meant for keyboard and mouse was when the default controls for scanning was F, but then to tag something you have to push E, so you're like doing this thing where your fingers are on top of each other. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But controller, yes.
Yeah, so highly recommend that. But in addition to the multiplayer, they did a really significant graphics overhaul. So there are now, for the most part, there's more lush planets, like with the crazy grass that you did see in the earlier trailers. If I was them, I would make sure there are butterflies on every goddamn planet. And they've added like some weird exotic planet types that are pretty cool. I haven't experienced any myself yet, but I have seen screenshots of people who landed on like all metallic planets. I did last night get to my first low atmosphere planet, and that was pretty cool. Also, had a ton of graviton balls and really angry sentinels.
What is the low atmosphere planets?
You drain your life support a lot faster, and it's kind of barren. They can't really support life, so it felt more like a rocky moon.
Yeah. The other thing on the low atmosphere is the gravity is not intense, so when you jump, you're
jump
like
there is
skyrocketing.
different gravity.
Yeah,
Great.
there is, yeah. Because that was the first thing. That was the first planet I landed on, was like a low atmosphere, and I was like, oh, this is new. And I noticed the health, and then I just hit the jetpack, and I just flew into the sky, and I was like, oh, that's a cool feature that
Pretty
they
awesome.
added. So.
Landing, not so fun.
Yeah.
I will say the player on board, like, so I played No Man's Sky when it first came out. I had those initial few hours of, oh my God, this is so exciting. Then I had the following few hours of, wow, this is actually really disappointing. Stop playing. This one, it's 2 years ago, so I've pretty much forgotten everything about the game. But I will say the player onboarding, it's good and bad. So they've improved the tutorials.
I feel like it's improved dramatically.
Yes, they've definitely improved the tutorials. Like everything, they will literally walk you through everything you're doing, and it still does. Like I'm building my hyperdrive, and I'm like hours in, and it's still like, yeah, you just got to go do this. And like to get money, there's literally like how do you make money? There's like a tab on how to make money. So that stuff is great. The tutorial stuff, they really do walk you through everything you're supposed to be doing. However, when you get on your first planet and you're getting barked at that, like, oh, your life support systems are failing and there's a storm coming. It's like, what am I doing? I just want to find a carbon.
The stress of when you initially start the game is pretty high.
And the drones are swarming, you know.
Yeah, and I got killed by a drone.
I did too. It can depend very much on what planet you rolled onto. So my first planet I rolled on with hostile sentinels. And so I was mining something I needed to stay alive.
Right.
And I was immediately getting attacked, so I went and I jumped in the ship and I just sat there, and then they were just shooting the ship, and I was like, well, I can't fly it away.
Right.
What am I gonna do? So I hopped out and tried to run away, but then all my limited life support and hazard, because it was also, I think, a toxic planet, was draining down really fast.
Yep,
and I was just, I was like, you know what? Re-rolled again. Because I decided with this update to start over. Yeah. I have another save that's got a upgraded ship, and I've got a highly upgraded exosuit, and I've got all that stuff, and I've got a ton of money, so I can spend it on whatever. But I decided to start over because I wanted to see how the early game progression and how they really lead you into and through the game had changed. Big shift. Yeah. Aside from those very stressful first few minutes, I didn't feel left nearly as adrift as I did when the game first came out, where I was just having to look online and go, what am I supposed to do?
Right, they walk you through it, and that's great.
They do. They've also really redone resources. So there's a bunch of resources that weren't in the game when it initially launched. And they also they introduced biome-specific resources. Oh, yeah. So there's
scan planets and find out what's there.
Yeah, and there's also ferrite dust appears above ground. If you're looking for cobalt, you need to look in a cave. Yeah. There will be some types of resources that only spawn on certain types of planets.
Certain resources only that are found underwater versus above. But kind of piggybacking on what you said, I made the mistake of jumping into my original account. I have been to the center, I've visited 320 planets, so I was like, I'm not giving up on this, I'm gonna jump in. And they changed so much that all the upgrades that I made to my suit, my ship, and my gun were completely destroyed. So all that were in there were like technology modules, which
Did
is
you
how
have
you do
the
it.
space?
Yeah, the space was still there. But all the upgrades, so now I have to go back and re-upgrade everything, buy all the resources to do it again.
And that can get real expensive.
Yeah, so I immediately was like, oh, this is how we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna start over and start new.
Was that frustrating since you had put all that work into the original game, like you were being punished a little bit?
I have a very love-hate relationship with No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
I played the game and I kind of kept...
You've put in hundreds of hours.
I think I'm at 200 hours on that game.
Jeez.
And when I first played the game, I was like, I'm put blinders on, I'm not gonna listen to any of the media, I'm not gonna listen to any complaining, I just wanna get to the center.
Right.
And when I got to the center, my ship was fully upgraded, my suit was fully upgraded, and spoiler alert, when you get to the center, it just launches you straight into the back of the beginning of the galaxy. And if that's not enough to get you excited, it breaks every single piece of armor that you've upgraded, every single upgrade to your ship. So to your point of like, when I opened it up and I saw everything was broken and I was like, okay, you know, I've been here before.
I'm used to being punished
over.
by this game.
Yeah, so, but when I started over.
Get fucked.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's kind of the nice thing is that like I started it over and I've got a brand new character, and because I've been to the center and because I kind of know what the game is, I'm in no rush. So it's like I'm playing with the building mechanics, and when they did the foundation update, it was like, oh, here's 5 different buildings that you can build. But now it's like kind of like Ark, where you can put a foundation or a wall or a door in kind of the terraformer. I was building in a winter planet. I was like mining into a mountain, so I was protected from the outside and building my house inside the mountain.
Some Minecraft.
Yeah.
The building is actually like pretty easy and intuitive. Like the things snap exactly where you want them. It's pretty easy to navigate that menu. There's like a good amount of options now, like a good amount of control. Like there's a lot of depth in the menus now, but they've handled it pretty well on controller. Terrible on PC or on keyboard and mouse, but good on controller.
Yeah, I just like dicking around my started planet. Like and I mean this it's boring, but it's boring in a good way now. Like there's stuff to do, but it's relaxing and fun just to explore. I think it fulfilled the promise of what they set out to do, but it's one of those you can play however you want. You can fly around, and I still love the getting in your ship and leaving the planet. I still think that mechanic is so cool to look at, but I just kind of like getting to know my individual planet and just playing around with it.
I haven't played enough yet to really have decided if this update will bring me back or not. But I'm not sure what the driving factor is for, like, if you want, like, I want to play co-op, but like what other than
to do what?
Where am I? I don't necessarily need objectives, but am I going to fight harder and harder enemies? Am I going to get better and better gear? Like, where is the treadmill there? Or is it just build a cool base, explore with your friends? And that's fine. It just might not be for me if that's the only thing.
Right. It would be nice for some.
Hello Games is like, really?
Yeah, we've given you everything.
Even in Minecraft, there's like an end boss, you know, and I think it would be cool if there was something like that in the game. Maybe there is that we don't know about. I think that would be a nice touch.
So I have heard Adam was playing. He said he got attacked by pirates, and I was like, that immediately.
Cool. Awesome.
That's one thing.
Space pirates?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's immediately something that I'm into because, like, okay, here's an enemy.
Right.
Our friends can go swarm, and we can have space battles. But yeah,
and you can take on missions too. So it's not like a story progression thing or anything, but on space stations, which are now vastly improved over launch. Remember, at launch, you'd get on this enormous space station, and then there was
one guy.
like one guy in this one room who'd be like, "What do you want?" And now they're open. You can talk to
there's like a
dozen
lobby.
different guys. There are different vendors, so you can buy blueprints for technology upgrades or blueprints for new pieces of bases. Or there's a dude who will give you missions to complete, and then they'll improve your standing with that particular alien race. And then once you've improved your standing with that race, then they can give you guild missions.
It doesn't feel like you walked into an office on the weekend. And there's only like 2 guys there.
With the lights flickering.
Exactly.
There isn't like just people walking around and having fun. They're not other visitors to the space station yet though.
If you're there at the same time as someone.
Sure, but I'm just talking about like AI, just people like walking around having a cigarette or whatever.
I did find, so I've been to a couple of them now, and they do, like, there'll be a group over here that are talking. You don't know what they're talking about. You can't just overhear them. And then there'll be one that might give you a random mission, or I talk to each of them and I'll either like learn a word off them, or go and be like, what should I go check out? And they're like, there's a great restaurant over on this planet.
There's a Starbucks down there.
I've had some performance issues on PC. That game has been a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not sure where it's coming from, but so initially the load is like 15 minutes.
Okay.
That's a very long time.
Maybe it was
My initial load was a couple minutes.
Sorry, maybe it was like 5. It was at least 5, somewhere between 5 and 10.
It's all those virtual pets.
And I don't know why, but like during that initial loading shader screen, like I had like 5 frames a second.
Oh wow.
And
you know what? I had the same thing. Once it loaded in, it was fine.
Me too on PS4.
But it's almost like it was writing something, or it was going through its generation. It was rolling a lot of dice. That's what it felt like to me, and that it was getting kind of bogged down. And I got the sort of weird slideshow. I got real worried. when the game loaded, it was okay.
Yeah, the game runs for the most part okay. It does default to 30 frames a second if you're on PC and you didn't know that. Just switch it to 60. I will say that I have had trouble maintaining 60 frames per second throughout the experience. It definitely dips to like mid 40s, which is bizarre. There's some. I don't know if you guys have this problem. I'm having some draw distance issues where there's a lot of things that pop in as you move. And that's sort of inherent to the game when I played on PS4, but like when I'm flying around in a spaceship, I don't see asteroid fields until they're like 100 feet ahead of me.
Asteroid fields, I do find, seem to be a shorter draw distance.
Yeah.
Planets, I don't have that quite as much.
Only when I'm flying into planets.
Okay.
It looks like a rug when I land on the planet. And it's like, oh, there's grass.
Yeah. It takes a little bit for the trees to render in.
Yeah.
But the one thing I've run into on the PlayStation side is there's like a sound bug.
So you're playing PS4?
Yeah, I'm playing PlayStation 4. So as soon as you like launch or like you turn your like jet engines on to like go anywhere, the audio kind of like clips. So it's like, and then the engines kick in.
Oh, weird.
So there's like a weird audio bug, but loading in was fast, but I do have some of the rendering issues where it's like you land and then there's nothing there, and then I get out of my ship and there's just a tree coming straight through the cockpit of my plane.
It's not like world ending.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that I have like a decently powerful machine. Like I can play Witcher 3 on Ultra and all that, and like I'm having trouble running No Man's Sky.
So
Don't get me wrong, it's a big
play
game.
Witcher 3, Adam?
Yeah, I actually would like to talk about that for a while.
But I have experienced a couple weird issues, not in regards to that, but so you can get quests from people, or these missions, and this is something that I will assume will be fixed in an update, but instead of telling me what the mission is, I'm getting their generic variable text. So like basically like int mission.
Oh, cool.
Well, and I'm like, this is not supposed to be what this is.
So it hasn't translated, or
right? Like they instead of putting in what that variable is supposed to say, it just says the name of the variable, and then if I go into my log, then I can go, oh, I'm supposed to go feed 8 animals, but
but they're not telling.
But I don't know what it is. Like when it pops up, I'm just like.
So it actually looks like they dropped a hotfix patch today that fixes all of these issues I think so far that you guys have mentioned.
Great.
They did say they were aware of and working on some things, and I'm sure there will continue to be other things that are fixed.
I think the thing that comes for me though is like when I played it at launch, it was frustrating when every time you warped from galaxy to galaxy, it crashed. So like every time you hit the warp button, well, that was for me on the PlayStation when I was trying to stream it, it would immediately just crash the game. And then we would also have issues where like literally the planet I landed on before we got to the center of the universe was mining resources, and then the ground just disappeared, and I sunk right into the center of the planet, and I couldn't get back up or anything like that. So for the last 2 days of playing this, I haven't had any of those issues. So I'm just like, this game
that's
great.
a solid improvement.
Yeah, like
basic functionality.
yeah, basic functionality. Yeah.
What made you stick with it for that long? Because that seems like the most masochistic thing.
Yeah. So it's always been the dreamer effect. I've always had an appreciation of the game. Like even though they came out and they overpromised and oversold the game.
Right.
I think somebody said it great this week on your guys' show where they're like, it's finally out of alpha and finally out of beta. It's like the game you're supposed to get.
But there was still something cool there.
No Man's
it was
Sky
like-
has finally released.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not early
My
access.
thing was that like we were at a time when Star Wars Battlefront came out and everyone was like, oh, there's only 2 playable maps. And then I'm like, well, you look at No Man's Sky, they literally gave you like 18 quintillion planets to explore.
Yeah.
And even though like all the planets are kind of boring and like, yeah, they still like, they raised the bar in the gaming industry.
Yes,
And that's kind of
yes.
been like my appreciation of the game that's kind of kept me around is like, you guys did something that with only 8 people at the time,
Right.
that other studios, they try to achieve it and it takes them much, much longer at times.
See, I felt like there was a lot of Molyneux effect going on with the release of the game. I feel like they talked it up way too much. And if they hadn't if they hadn't talked about some of the features that didn't make it in for launch, and I know that there were occasions where they're like, we're gonna continue to add things after the game launches, but weren't clear about what is in at launch and what they're going to continue to work on in the future. So it was so much talk of this grand vision that then wasn't the game that was delivered.
Yeah.
I was with a lot of other people and being like, this is not cool. The communication here was clearly off. someone should have shut you up.
Yeah.
Because the game that you sold is not the game that gamers were able to buy. And I don't think that is I don't think that's a solid foot to start on with your gaming community. Right. I think it's great that there's a lot of gamers who did enjoy and stick with it through. They found they're like, you know what, I like just having 18 quintillion planets. If they're not great, you know what, it's still something for me to do. It's fun. I'm enjoying myself. Great, and I think it's good. Yeah. If you like something, fuck yeah, man, like it. But I think the people who are upset and disappointed about what the product ended up being had good reason to do so, and I don't think that disappointment would have been there if they had been more upfront and clear about what was coming at launch versus what was coming later.
Do you think they could have, as a company, waited another year to release it and still have that hype building up for it? Because I feel like if you look at where they were after a year, they had vehicles and they had buildings. So it's like there's at least some of that there, or would you think that the multiplayer would still be the
They would need to release, the thing they could have done is just said, this is early access.
Yeah.
If they had been upfront about that fact, that would have changed a bunch of things as well. But I feel like the game that they marketed is the game that is now out 2 years later.
Yeah, right. No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
I've never played a game where I felt, well, I've played many games where I feel like I just flushed $60 down the toilet. Yeah. And this is pretty much how that felt. But this is a very rare example of them completely, I feel like, redeeming it, putting in what they said they did. I'm surprised they stayed in business. To get the money to keep going for 2 years, to bring it up to an acceptable level. So I think they deserve a ton of credit for doing that. I think 99% of other developers would have just cut their losses.
Bioware cut their losses on Mass Effect.
Yeah, absolutely. This
within like a month of people being upset about it.
For a new IP, like they kind of did something similar with Final Fantasy XIV. They shut it down. They built almost a completely new game. But this, for a new studio to stick with it like this, I do think speaks volumes. So as bad as the launch was, I think they deserve a ton of credit.
I agree. It would have been easy to take that money, run, and just never work in games again, because that would be a difficult thing to do. Yeah. But they did stick it out, and while I would have liked the launch to have been different than it was, it does go a long way with me that they stuck with it and worked on it and have continued to add to it. Yeah,
I think at some point we need to get together and do some multiplayer and see what the driving force is, and see if it's like if the multiplayer really does add enough to the game to make it feel like we have stuff to do. Yeah. And, I mean, I'm not far enough. I'm not making any judgments on the game yet, because I'm just treating it like a new game, and I'm only a few hours in. I want to get to a certain point where I know all the systems, and I've been to enough places that I sort of understand what the game is like, and then I'll make some decisions. I will say, I wish the flying was better.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. The flying to me is, like, I got into some dogfights in space the other day, and I was like, this isn't 100% there. I was like, it's still tough, because it's not seamless and it's not smooth as I wish it would be.
It's really arcadey, and it sort of reminds me of like an inverse Elite Dangerous, where the flying is really arcadey, but the focus is more on the planets and exploring those, whereas Elite Dangerous is there's planets, but the focus is on the flying and the ship sim. And I wish that some of those elements were merged, because I would love to play this game with a HOTAS, and I would love to like spend time upgrading my ship and like just exploring space as a whole, rather than it feeling like a weird taxi.
One thing I want to see, and I kind of want someone to call Sean Murray and ask him, is that one of the biggest criticisms was like how ugly and boring planets are. Yeah. And now it seems like the ugly and boring planets are all sodium and they're filled of salt. So I don't know if that's like a jab at like all the saltiness that he got, where he's like, oh, here you go. Have some salt.
Have your salt-filled planet.
You've all restarted, right?
Yeah.
I restarted,
I'm curious about what your experiences were for your planet. So my first planet was kind of boring and rocky, but as soon as I got out into space, I saw a ringed planet. That was the first thing I saw, and I landed on it. And it was sort of again, not super exciting, but the third planet I landed on was the lush, like, there are oceans to swim around in, there's grass everywhere, there's trees, there's cute, stupid little spore-like creatures walking around. What was like? Did you guys have any order set, or like, what was your experience like in that?
So I started over a couple of times. The first time I spawned on a toxic planet. With unhappy sentinels. So not a great combination. So I just went, fuck it, and restarted again. Ended up on a snowy planet. It was lovely.
I love snow.
You know, it was a nice place to go snowboarding. And that was a lot. That was a lot better. And it was a ringed planet, so that was cool. Like I can see the rings. That was a nice
thing
addition.
about the rings that I was like, oh, that's a cool aesthetic. Is like I actually flew into the rings and there was like an asteroid belt.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's like a cool aesthetic, and
definitely
yeah.
I want to take a planet and just mine all its ring away. It'll take a while. Probably.
Fun little game I devised for myself was fly through an asteroid belt with boost on and just hold your gun down, see if you can make it through. It's fun. That's the most fun I've had.
Yeah.
So the planet I started on, the snow planet, was pretty cool. I haven't been to a lush planet yet. I have landed on a lot of poisonous planets. I landed on one hot desert planet that was kind of cool, but I haven't found the one that's got like the crazy, awesome grass with the oceans.
You haven't found your forever planet.
No, I haven't. I'm not setting down a base. Well, I wasn't. I might actually set one down now that I found the low atmosphere planet, just because I can mine the little graviton ball things. You know, the little glowy little balls.
Money for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're worth a lot.
Do we have any confirmation on super creatures like the giant worm from the first trailer?
I ran into a creature that I had never seen in the game yesterday. It wasn't like that, but it was like, the biggest thing I could say is like a giant crab with like 8 legs, and then it had like a shell, and then its neck was kind of like curved like a giraffe. And the only reason it caught my attention was like I thought it was a tree, and it's like big. So when I walked up to it, I was like, oh, look at this tree, and then it started moving. And I immediately like jumped back, but I haven't seen or heard anything on Reddit of like the sandworm from Beetlejuice that they showed off in that original trailer or anything like that.
I can't find anything like that, but have you guys run into any of the biological horrors on any of the planets or heard
biological
anything about
horrors?
this?
I've ran into plants that whip my butt and makes me sad. They go,
oh, those plants. Oh, I'm vindictive about those plants.
They surprise me a lot.
I harvest the crap out of those plants. I'm like, oh, you think so? You think so? They tend to be good for oxygen.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that's the other thing, is that they made the minerals completely different as well. So in the past, it was like you had to have thamium and like plutonium, and now it's like oxygen literally runs everything you need, but it's also the hardest mineral to find in the game now.
Well, you can. It's also nice because there's little plants you walked up to, and you don't even have to mine them. You just push the interact button.
Yeah.
The thing that also I don't know. My memory is bad, but I think like ore deposits used to be pillars.
They did. So
and
that's
now
one
it's like
thing.
they're in the ground, and you use the terrain manipulator.
Such an improvement. I mean, in terms of the planet like looking nice is they did make a lot of the deposits subterranean. So you see like a little blip on the top, and now you mine down into the planet instead of just looking up at the pillar of mineral. You're like, ah, yes, this.
Yeah.
And then just getting rid of that, you are now mining, which is, I agree, a lot more immersive, a lot more like realistic simmy, very cool. And that's, they started doing that when they introduced the terrain manipulator.
The other thing that I've really been enjoying, and I didn't even see it coming, was like the buried treasure aesthetic. Have you guys run into that yet?
Buried treasure.
Yeah, where like there's like hidden technology upgrades that you go to and you use the terrain manipulator to dig them up. And I was like, this is cool. Never thought about this aesthetic in the game. And yeah, I
found one and it was like, you need stuff, and I was like, I don't know where to get that stuff. Bye.
Yeah, because then you can spend that on you chuck it into a blueprint, basically the blueprint reader, and then you can learn new types of blueprints for your bases and stuff.
Have you guys?
There is some cool stuff there.
Have you used a freighter? I want to know what the freighter is.
Yeah, I got one for free.
Great.
So there's, if you see a freighter getting attacked, this literally happened last night. It was getting attacked, and I rescued it from the pirates. And the captain was like, I don't want to work this anymore. And he's like, here's the keys to the ship. And I was like, okay.
Retires.
Just a random space guy. Here's the keys.
Which, like, so you want to do that because they're what, like 60 million credits or something if you're trying to.
So it's cool. And the thing I compare it to is like, Assassin's Creed used to have this mechanic where you could send ships out to do like missions for you. Your freighter can essentially do that. You can land on your freighter and be like, hey, for the next 2 hours, you're going to be running this trade route and giving you money and resources from that. So it's cool.
Can you fly the freighter?
You can teleport it to the planet that you're on. So if you're on the ground, you can teleport it and it'll like appear like a Star Destroyer up above.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but you can't manually get in the pilot's seat. Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Well, now that you've got, like with the new update too, I believe you can have a fleet of freighters, and then you can have like a command ship. And the command ship is where you can get multiplayer missions as well. But otherwise, you can send different freighters around to like different spots.
Yeah.
So,
That's badass.
yeah,
That's cool.
it's pretty. Like it seems like a good way to build up your empire in the long run.
What are the biological horrors, Ben? Is that what you called them?
Yeah, so there I guess are reports from a PC Gamer columnist where he landed on a planet that it said was lifeless once he had first landed. But he found on his tracker there were things called like these lifeless eggs that he could walk up to and open up and find like 9,000 gold or something like that.
Yes.
I found one that I would like open up these pods. They were a different icon on the scanner, and I would open these gross little organic like seed-looking pods, and there'd be some kind of pearl inside.
Don't you know better? Haven't you seen Alien?
Any sci-fi movie
Yeah, that's
will
kind of.
let you know.
So I sold them. Someone else could
ran
deal with
into
that.
and it was the same shell, and it has like kind of similar to the Gravitino ball inside, but like you open it and a creature pops out and starts attacking.
Alien.
I haven't had that.
Yeah,
No.
so, yeah, that happened to me on a planet, and it's this thing.
Biological horror detected. Oh God.
And I made the mistake, I wasn't paying attention, so I opened like 4 of these eggs on a planet, and so 4 of these creatures are chasing me. I did what you did, I just jumped in my ship and was like, can't get me in here, I'm safe, but it's pretty terrifying.
So apparently there's 2 different types of eggs on that planet. There's whispering eggs and humming eggs.
Okay.
One of them gives you treasure, the other will unleash a biological horror on you.
Okay, I think
Whispering eggs, yeah.
I think the humming egg gave me the pearls.
It's one of the 2.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's the thing I've been enjoying about it is like, I didn't really play it when the Atlas update came. I was just kind of took a break, and coming back to it, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm discovering stuff again, and I'm like, oh, I posted it to a friend the other day. I'm like, I'm excited to see where this game is going. And they said they're going to be doing like a weekly community event coming up or something like that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like they're ready to communicate again. Now that this update's out, it's going to be a community-focused game. They're going to be weekly updates and probably more future content updates as well.
Yeah, well, and they are still working on multiplayer for GOG consumers. So this, I guess the Atlas Rises update for GOG players also didn't include the rudimentary multiplayer, and the full multiplayer is also currently not available for GOG players.
What's the deal with that?
So, I mean, they haven't detailed. If I were to speculate, it would be that Steam already has all these tool sets in place for, for like the matchmaking, for connecting people, for running all that stuff. And GOG doesn't necessarily have as sophisticated a tool set for that stuff yet or at this point. So there are complications there. And they said they are planning on getting the multiplayer to GOG players via GOG Galaxy sometime this year, but they don't have a date, which is always kind of, or even a window beyond sometime this year, which is understandably kind of concerning. Right. GOG is offering refunds though for people who don't want to wait, which is nice.
I think it's extended refunds too. So
it is. So it's like even if it's been more than 30 days since you bought the game, you can get a refund. GOG is doing that out of their own pocket. And I think it's credit. Like it's not a money back thing. It's a GOG store credit. But if that is a bigger deal to you than the DRM of GOG or the lack of DRM, then I think it's 50% off on Steam right now. So you can pick it up for $30 if you are okay switching storefronts. If you want the multiplayer more than you want the game to be DRM free. Otherwise, we'll see when that multiplayer comes, but that's just one of the things they're working on. They said they're planning on doing sort of like community events and additional improvements and sort of starting to launch like weekly activities now that they've got the game in a place that they are more satisfied with.
It looks like you are right about the tech issues. I guess they released a statement saying, for a small independent studio, developing the feature across multiple platforms is a hugely ambitious and technical challenge, which resulted in this delayed release. Hello Games is, however, joining forces with GOG.com to introduce full multiplayer via the GOG Galaxy platform. But yeah, it seems like something wrong with the platform itself.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, speaking of multiplayer, we talked about last week of whether it would be opt-in or opt-out. it's weird. On the surface, it looks like you can't opt out because you just choose join a server where people can join you or join other people. But when you like join your own server or whatever, or create a server, you can then turn off network play. So you can opt out of that. You can also opt out of just people seeing your base. So there's complete opt out, just in case people are wondering.
Cool. So you can be alone in the universe.
Yes, in your general options or network options, you can say network play off.
Mind you, I haven't run into anyone at this point.
I had a friend join my game, and I said, I don't want to play with anyone right now. Network play off. Go away.
It's crazy. Like I've been to, like I said, 300 plus planets. I have never ran across a planet that somebody else has discovered.
Really?
Yeah, never.
That's because there's too many fucking planets.
Well, also they did a race for a while. I don't know if they're still doing it, but at the beginning, I think it was like, it was a while. It was like 2 weeks or something, but then they would erase all your discovery data. Oh, man.
Nice.
So then planets would go back to being undiscovered.
Love that.
But, you know, I think that's also changing now because when you get to, you know, like you can find these ancient portals and they've got these glyphs that basically tell you like this is the address for this portal, so you can have someone else come in through the portal and join you. So it's a way to quickly or more quickly get together. And so I imagine that kind of thing is going to change once because it's easier to just go join someone's bit of universe.
It's pretty cool.
So pretty interested to see where it goes from here. You know, there are a lot of people I'm seeing that are still like, I will never ever support this game or ever look at it again. Screw these guys for not delivering the game that they promised at launch. And you know what? I totally understand that. You've moved on from the game that came out 2 years ago and you've got no interest. All right, fine.
You were promised a full game and you paid a full price for it, and you did not get that, and that's completely respectable that you don't want to play it again. I'm just happy we're able to give it a new chance. I know 2 years ago when we talked about this on the patch, we were like, I can't wait to see where this game is in 2 years, and we're finally there. So
we're there.
We have to give it a shot.
We're there. So yeah, for me, I'm happy to have a game that I'm having fun with, and I don't feel like as I'm playing it, I'm waiting for it to get fun at some point. I have frustrations because I did start over and I'm like, I just want to upgrade my suit. I just want to upgrade my tools. I just want to upgrade my ship. I'm running out of space and I feel like I don't have money and I'm, like I know where my quality of life was and it's not there yet. Now that I found a planet with ground bubbles, that might change very quickly. But those are all also frustrations that I'm choosing to have because I decided to start over.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying myself, and so I'm pretty pleased with that. And we'll see where it goes from here. Would you recommend picking it up now?
I would. I think PlayStation and on Amazon for PlayStation it's like $19.99. So from that standpoint, I'm like, that's a no-brainer on the PlayStation side.
Yeah, it's also half off on Steam right now.
Yeah,
So
Xbox has it at like 45 or 50 or something like that. Yeah.
Look, it's just launching on that console.
Yeah.
Give 'em a break.
I had a buddy who called me yesterday, and we used to play it on PlayStation together, and he swore off the game. And he's like, should I get it on Xbox? And I was like, look, this is what they've changed. You and I were both into Arc. This is what the features of Arc that they've kind of brought in. This is what they brought in from Astro. And kind of giving it from that perspective. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. I'll end up buying it, so.
I don't know if I recommend it yet. I'm not deep enough in. I'm not saying I don't recommend it, but
You're just not making a recommendation either way.
I can't pick yet.
Yeah, I don't think, if it were on sale for $60 like when it launched, I would say no.
Yeah.
20, absolutely. So I think it's still in that range. I have friends who are also getting back into it, so that's the biggest part of any of these multiplayer games. So I think, I think it's to some sort of level where it's purchasable, which is not where it was before.
Yeah.
But it feels like they built like a nice platform now, a nice framework to add all kinds of stuff in the future, like y'all were talking about earlier. And I think that's, it's in a good spot.
Yeah, I feel like it launched as an overall okay, but unexceptional sort of space sandbox idea. And I feel like now it's a game.
They put some
no idea if there's an end.
Yeah.
Right.
So that'll be curious. I'm curious to know where they go with that direction. But Minecraft also didn't launch with the end.
Yeah,
So
true.
you know, we'll see.
I want to
Somebody
eventually get to the
else,
point where there are people that can destroy whole planets, and then there's the forces
Now
of
we're
good
Yeah.
that need to fight them.
Some EVE Online shit.
Fucking do it.
Yeah.
See, I've always thought that would be cool if you could build like cities on a planet
I
and
would
then
l-
like mine from like create like a little empire where you're like, oh, I'm mining graviton balls over here, but we're bringing it back to the capital on this planet, and you just have ships going. I was like, if they ever do that,
would love to see the
You
civilization
could potentially
update.
do that with your players now. Is
Yeah.
maybe not a full city, but you could get a pretty significant outpost.
Nice looking base.
Get everyone with
Yeah.
your portals. Have
true.
a good time.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever see it, but I would love to see the city, like the civilization update, where we could land on planets and see actually planets that are populated.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
When I used to stream the game, the question is like, are we going to come across planet Earth? And I was like, no, there's not going to be a planet Earth in this game. It's going to be too tough.
There is an elite, you just can't land on it, and you have to have a pass to go there.
All right, so let us know if you're planning on checking No Man's Sky out, or if you've been playing since they dropped the next update, and if so, what you think about it. If you've got some really kick-ass planets, and you know of a portal address nearby, let us know. I kind of want to check it out. I want to find an all-metal planet. That'll be fun. So we'll see, but overall, pretty cool. Now there is some industry stuff to talk about as well. There's always different things happening in the video game industry. Nothing that's gonna change the world this week, but some interesting insights from the changing of the old guard, as it were, with a couple of major gaming companies. So let's talk about the news. All right, first up, this is some next generation Xbox talk. At E3, Phil Spencer did say that Xbox is hard at work in architecting the next generation of Xbox consoles. Now, they did note multiple iterations, not super surprising. Xbox 360 had at the time was the core, and then that became arcade. And then they had the Pro, so they launched with multiple tiers of consoles. It looks like they're planning on doing something like that again with their next generation of Xbox hardware. And one of them looks like a traditional console. All the power, everything running the games is there in the box, in your house, running locally. And another version that might be more of a lower price point is potentially going to be a hybrid streaming console. So not full streaming, not like a stick that you plug into the TV and then everything runs somewhere else and just streams it down to you, but that it might run some of the like parts of the game locally, things like collision detection, that sort of thing, and then offload some of the other processing work to the cloud. This is something Microsoft's talked about doing in the past. Remember, it was 2013, and they're like, oh, we're gonna offload all the hard work to the cloud. And then they sort of stopped mentioning that kind of thing.
Or with Crackdown 3. That's what it was. And that turned out great.
It turns out that whole game is still just in the cloud, playing by itself.
One day we'll get
Yes, someday. So it's kind of an interesting approach that they may be taking. And again, this is based on a leak from some groups that have gotten accurate information ahead of announcements in the past, but it's not an official announcement. So we count it as speculation to some degree for now. But I think it's interesting. Streaming for video games, that being not. The terminology gets confusing now because streaming means a couple things.
Yeah.
You can stream the game and you can stream the game.
Yeah.
You can you're playing it locally and streaming it to an audience, or you're playing something that's actually being processed on a box 100 miles away, and then it is just being sent. The pictures are being sent back to you.
I got a free test of PlayStation Now. And I was like, I want to see what the service is about. So I tried to pick like the most, in my opinion, what would be like the heaviest graphic demanding game on there. So I was like, oh, let's play Saints Row. It worked. It wasn't like if I put a disc in the console and ran it, but it was still there. I Ideally, I mean, if we're talking next gen, that's got to be what, 2 years from now? Hopefully 2020, 2021.
It looks like they may be aiming 2020.
Okay.
Again, that's in the report.
Yeah.
That's speculation, nothing confirmed. But if they are going to try and get ahead of the PS5, which I think they said isn't coming until at least 2021, well, then maybe 2020 is the window.
I'd like to think the technology is going to be available to make that like turning on Netflix and you're switching through games and you're like, oh, I want to play this one, and you play it. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I want to make sure that it works. I don't want to pay for a service that's going to be kind of half-baked or, yeah.
I think that the service will probably be better than what we're used to. However, I still think there will be some compromises to be made. Like,
Yep.
I don't think that any games that require like Twitch responses are going to be. That's not going to be the ideal way to play. But the thing I've heard from people at Xbox in E3 interviews was just that they want to give players the options to enjoy their games, and whether that be on Windows through games for or what is that called? Play Anywhere, or whether that be on their Xbox consoles, or whether that be on a less performant but still accessible streaming platform. Like they want, I think their idea is less like, this is the best way to play it, than it is, this is an option. And if you want to make the sacrifice, or potentially not, like just slightly less performant, then play it this way. Or you like, I think eventually they want to bring that streaming platform to like mobile devices. And
Yeah.
they want more ways to play and more options for players. So while I think it will be better, I don't think it'll be like what we're used to in just playing a standard game.
Yeah.
So
I think that that's the part that excites me about this, is that potentially in the future, I mean, we're talking 5, 10 years, that the idea of PlayStation versus Xbox is no longer the idea of a console, but maybe just a smartphone app, just
Yeah,
like
it's
the
a
difference
service.
between, so like a Showtime or HBO, it would be PlayStation or Xbox. And that excites me. I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
And there is something about this shift as well that not everyone is on board with, which I understand. It is a move to a service concept, and there are a lot of people who are like, no, I want to own these things, I want to have them physically. This is a thing that I possess, not a thing that I rent. And so for that type of consumer, this shift is a difficult one for sure.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be, they, as an industry, need to continue to create like a place and a type of product for people who want to own their stuff. In this case, it looks like they're like, all right, well, we're going to have a traditional console. You get that, that's fine. But that we are seeing the same sort of shift that movies have been making, where like, yeah, there's Blu-rays, whatever, that's cool. Or you can just buy it on Apple or on the Google store or on the Microsoft store, or like wherever it is, and then we'll just stream the movie down to you whenever you want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those gamers. I like streaming movies and all that, but for video games, I still want that option of being able to own it. I know I don't own the game. I know it's still a license, but still like something physical and being able to play it offline.
Well, one of the
if
other
it's an
kind of
offline game.
speculation things I'm seeing is like in line with their fast start like announcement they had at E3, is imagine being able to say, hey, this new game just launched at 11
Right.
p.m. I'm going to start playing it, and it just says you can play this now. It'll be streamed while it's downloading and installing in the background.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that way
Yeah.
you can just instantly start playing without having to wait.
And that's cool. I do feel like it's just slow. I feel like they're gradually trying to push that out, though. And
Right.
I do feel like ultimately it's going to be streaming. It is what it is. I mean, you can see the writing on the wall. It feels like Microsoft's trying to be careful to not repeat the mistakes of their Xbox One announcement here, or that's my guess, is
Yeah.
that nope, you'll still have an option. You can still play, physical copies and offline. But it's interesting if that's the way people want to play it. There's no fighting.
I
It's
don't
the
think
way
it'll
it's
be.
going.
I don't think it'll be exclusively streaming. I think we'll still see digital ownership.
Yeah.
In some sense, like we do on Steam. But I think we'll eventually move to at least all digital and streaming.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about it. I mean, I do appreciate having physical boxes, but I think this is the generation where I've been more comfortable making that switch.
Yeah.
I think partially because of Steam, because it's just you don't really have options there. I mean, you can
Right.
go
It's
to
like it's difficult to find a PC game in stores now.
Yeah, like if you go to like a lot of stores, just straight up don't sell them.
Yeah.
And like with PS4, the same thing is like, well, I don't want to pre-order games anymore. So when it finally comes time to buy the game, do I really want to go all the way to the store? Can I just download it and have it ready for me when I get home or whatever?
And to switch back and forth very quickly from
Right.
your games. It is awesome.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see where that ends up going. I think it's an interesting thought experiment. But it is a risk, and so we'll see how it pays off. And another sort of, everything shifts as time rolls on. There was a recent interview with a former Bioware developer, James Olin, who was a big talent for Bioware. He worked on Baldur's Gate, but then he did Baldur's Gate 2. He did The Old Republic. He's like a very old school Bioware employee, responsible for some of the classics that made Bioware the studio that it's become. And he recently left the company. And he is just the latest of many of the old school talent who've left. I think the founders, they went and started like a brewing company?
They're doing well.
They left video games altogether, and I think they were like, we just want to make beer, which I think is awesome. But we've seen this shift, a lot of old guard talent leaving Bioware, and he did an interview recently where he talked a little bit about why that is and why the studio has changed. And he's very complimentary of his time at Bioware. He said he's been there for 22 years or something like that. And
Since the 90s.
and he said he's had a great time. He's worked on a lot of stuff. But he just wanted to go and do something a little bit different. His passion is he's really big into the D&D realm of things, and that's not quite what Bioware's doing these days. You could see that with the Baldur's Gate, the Neverwinter Nights type of thing. And now the focus has shifted, but he wants to do that. So now that's what he's doing. He's building D&D projects. Arcanum Worlds is his new thing. And he wanted to chase his bliss and all about that. But he said that when you see a lot of these old school talent leaving, that there's a lot of reasons why that might be the case. Is people have been there for 10 to 15 years. Not everyone is going to retire from the studio that they started at or that they've been there for that long. Sometimes you just want to change the scenery. You want to do something a little bit different. And that is, in the course of a professional career, totally natural.
Yeah.
And also, if you move up higher in a company like he has done over 22 years, you're going to become probably management. You're going to be spending a lot more of your time in meetings rather than just purely making games and purely creative endeavors. And that's what it really sounded like in this interview that he wanted to get back to. He also talked about working on Star Wars: The Old Republic. He compared it to steering the Titanic, not in terms of a failure, but in terms of
Or like
size.
an iceberg or anything.
Right.
But just
Right.
is big.
But just he could make sort of minor corrections, but managing, and I think 1,000 people is just a lot. And he talked about the responsibility of these games that need to make hundreds of millions of dollars to justify their expense. It sounds, very stressful. And at some point, once you get in your career, he's probably made enough money to where he can do what he wants to.
Yeah.
And probably have a lower stress job. It is interesting, and it seems to give some clues if you're in the camp of EA has ruined BioWare. He definitely, if you read between the lines, he's very complimentary of everyone, which makes sense because he might want to come back, to the industry at some point. But it does sound like it's gotten larger scale, making AAA games, and it's a lot more
This is an industry-wide shift.
Absolutely, it's not just BioWare, but it does sound like, reading between the lines, that it's not maybe as creative as it once was, or that it would like to be. There's maybe a lot of different bosses to answer to, and that just, but on some level, that just is what it is. That's the reality of making games in 2018.
It is true. You get these budgets now that are huge, and when you have these huge budgets and teams, when you have a team of 1,000 people, no one person has all the input, right? No. So you're not the creative mastermind of all things the way you can be on a tiny team.
Yeah.
Everyone has their input, everyone has their say. Like you said, there's a lot of managers, a lot of stakeholders. Yeah. You've got your, all of your different key creatives, and you have to make all of that work. And the money is a consideration because when you have 1,000 people, they all need to be paid, and that means that there is then pressure on the product they're creating to sell a certain, like at least a certain amount. It has to reach us, has to have a certain market potential, not just like, well, this is a thing that we've just wanted to make forever, and so we made it. Because
it's not Stardew Valley, it's not World of Goo, it's not even No Man's Sky. I think the reason they were able to keep on is because it was a small studio, and Sean Murray probably said, no, we're fucking sticking with this. Whereas if, you know, he worked for EA would be like, nope, you're shut down. We are going to burn your game to the ground.
We've closed your studio and frozen the IP.
Yeah, and we're going to salt the ground so it can never grow again. But you know, that's what working in a big ass corporation like this is like. But there's a lot of money involved, and like game developers are skilled, like highly paid, generally employees. So yeah, there's a ton of money involved. So it's it was very interesting, and it felt like he was. You know, it's understandable why he's doing what he's doing, but it does sort of make you think about how expensive these games are, and if this is a bubble, and is this sustainable? Because it has gotten so, it's like the movie industry, like these big, giant tentpole movies, if they work.
These little tiny movies. There's not, the middle's falling out. The middle's shrinking.
Yeah, and if they work, you can fucking print money like GTA 5 and GTA Online, and everybody's gonna make a ton of money, and if they crash, you're out of your studio shut down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing about the gaming industry is that there's Fortnites, there's GTAs, but not every single company is making Fortnite money.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that their game's not bad. It's just not making that money. So that if you're gonna, you know, determine, and a lot of times corporations and companies like to look at just dollars, and that's it, to whether the game succeeded or not. And you can't really do that with games sometimes because, you know, you got some games that are just fun to play and it maybe sold 10,000 copies. People liked it. Hey, it was a success, you know.
Yeah, so it is an interesting look from an industry veteran about, like, and you know, taking just the evolution of one studio as an example of how just the industry and the approach to game development as a studio has shifted in recent years. So, you know, there's no real like action items coming out of it. Just it's an interesting glimpse. He did say as well that he doesn't think Anthem is the like make or break for the studio. Like Bioware is going to be shut down if Anthem isn't a success. That's been a concern for a lot of people. That considering, you know, Mass Effect Andromeda didn't do well, and EA shuttered that studio, which admittedly was, you know, it was a rookie studio that they had put together to create Andromeda, and they folded those employees into EA Motive instead. And so the concern was, are they going to shutter Edmonton? Are they going to shutter Bioware as a whole if Anthem performs similarly? He doesn't think that's the case, but I also got to acknowledge that EA's not got a great track record with being tolerant of
I don't know if I
games not doing
believe him. Like, what's he gonna say? This is it. If not, we're fucked. Like, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want it to become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Maybe he's just trying to cover his tracks because he knows that it's fucked.
And
he's leaving. He doesn't want to be on that train when it crashes.
We also have the side that like EA is also a publicly traded company. So if he were to come out and say, "Hey, Anthem is going to destroy this company," that could potentially affect stocks.
Oh, it would drop overnight.
And it would potentially put him on the line for responsibilities of that. So
that's a great point.
I mean, you gotta be careful.
And this is, you know, he knows all these people. He's got good, you know, he wants this to succeed. I don't blame him for any of this, but I think he has a vested interest in, putting a positive spin on it. I think the reality is if Anthem doesn't do well, BioWare's in massive trouble. Maybe they're not shuttering them, but like you said, EA has done this many, many, many times, shut down companies. I don't think they'd lose any sleep over doing this to BioWare.
I'm worried about Anthem. I think people are anticipating that game is going to be something that it's not.
That's because they've been really weird about how they communicate it. Remember last year, coming out of E3 last year, everyone was like, oh, so it's Destiny. Except BioWare. Okay. And then this year, they're like, no, single player experience, but you can have multiple people there.
It's a co-op RPG.
They've shifted how they talk about it, and that makes it feel like I don't know what Anthem is supposed to be. I don't know what it's going to be. And at this point, I'm just, for me personally, I'm sitting back and I'm waiting, and I'm trying not to tell myself what it is or
think-
what it isn't, because I don't feel like it's been really clearly stated. This is the game. This is the vision. This is the experience.
I
It's
think
changed already.
Well, I don't think it changed. I think they did a poor job anticipating the consumer reaction to their video of showing something that looked kind of like Destiny, and you're playing with multiple people, and you're in a big open world. Like, I think I can't blame people for making those comparisons, but like they just weren't explicit in that first demo to say like it's a single player RPG. But I think that they did come around. They're finally like, guys, it's an RPG. You're not going to see people in the wild. You're not going to see people in the hub. You're going to go out and play, and if you want to invite your friends, you can. Like, I think that's what the game is, and I think people are still going, yeah, Destiny. I like good Destiny.
It feels muddy, and it's hard to come back from a first impression.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's still Destiny. Yeah,
Right.
It still is.
You're the one going, yeah, Destiny.
And they're also, and in that interview, Olin said, one of the strengths of Bioware is we like to try new things. Anthem is a new thing. That can be a strength, but it can also be a bad thing too, because people in their mind have what a Bioware game should be. I don't know if it's a good idea to fully do a hard 90-degree turn from that.
We also don't know like the scope of the game.
Right.
Like people are going, yeah, Destiny, and they're thinking this is a game I'm going to play for a year.
Yes.
And I'm going to come back to it every weekend.
Or is it a 20-hour?
They've come out and said no PvP. At least that's not a focus right now.
Right.
And they're like, what if it's just, this isn't a bad thing, but like, what if it's just an RPG where you play for like a campaign, and there is nothing else?
Right.
See, I'm sorry, not Warframe. Anthem to me is looking more like a Warframe, where it actually, I jumped on it and I'm like, okay, this is fun, this is exciting, I can go out and play by myself. And then when I saw the microtransactions of Warframe, that's where I'm like, oh, this is possibly how Anthem might
Warframe
work.
isn't
But
free to play
Warframe
game.
is also compared most frequently to Destiny.
Yeah, no, it's true, yeah. But the thing you did hit on is that Warframe is free to play.
Yeah.
So Anthem has to be really careful on how they tout that line of
Battlefront 2 all over again.
I think that they're not going to push microtransactions because of how bad Battlefront went. And if you look at how they came out with Battlefield, what is it called? World War II?
Yeah.
Battlefield 5?
What was it called?
Battlefield 5?
Is it 5?
Call of Duty World War II?
Battlefield, the next one. They were like, no loot boxes. They're like, the only thing you're going to get is cosmetics.
Yeah.
So I think that we can probably anticipate less of that. I think maybe the tides are finally turning on shitty microtransactions.
Hopefully.
Well, as you're starting to see some countries as well step in on regulating them, I think companies may find them at least somewhat less attractive an option. There's a new thing where in the Netherlands, people buying, what is it?
Dota 2.
Dota 2.
Yep.
Instead, like they will now be told what is in the loot box that they're buying.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Because like right now, I think the way it is you can see what potential rewards are.
Yeah.
In this
But
one,
Oh
you
no,
can see what
they
the
posted a
next thing you'll buy.
screenshot.
But
It tells you.
That's fucking crazy.
No, I mean, and
how
that's
does that? Do you
only
just like scroll through the boxes that you have and go, oh yeah, I want to unlock that one, or is it like
No,
now you have
one at a time.
They have a
Only
list.
one at a time.
Okay, so it's like, well, if I know I'm going to get some shit, but maybe the next one's good. Is that it?
Maybe,
fucking
but they can at
wild,
least see what it is they're buying beforehand. So that's the sort of
fucking
justification
wild.
there, is there's a little bit more transparency. And we'll see if this starts bleeding over into other games as well. But fingers crossed that loot boxes are past the peak.
Yeah, come on, Overwatch.
Yeah.
Get with
So
it.
we'll see.
I'm
We
just
shall
kidding,
see.
Overwatch.
Free skins, no.
The final thing that I just wanted to touch on really quickly is similar to BioWare. A former Valve employee has talked about how that studio has changed over time. And it kind of explains why they don't make games. We always make the joke that, of course, they don't make games, they make money. That's what they do now. Why would anyone make a game when you can just kick back and make a shit ton of money? Because that's what Valve does. They have they have a couple big games that are older that do great money with their loot boxes, with their esports. They have a platform that takes like 30% of every game, and that's what they are now. Is they're they're a platform, and it's been a while since they've made a game. I know they're coming out with Artifact, the game that nobody wants, probably because they were like, look at all the money that Hearthstone is making off of Bryan. let's get that going. Yeah. And but they are not making follow-ups to any of their really big franchises. And he talked a little bit about why that is, and what it comes down to for the most part is that we all know that Valve internally works different than a lot of companies. You're not hired onto this team to work on this project. People sort of shift around and they work on the things that they want to work on, which in an ideal world means that everyone is creatively driven with these passion projects and they put out something really awesome. But effectively what it seems to have turned into is that the job at Valve is to navigate politics. And that everyone is then, finding a group, and then they will all say nice things about each other in their reviews, and that's essentially how the company works.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I hear is that because everyone has the ability to work on their own passion projects, they don't want to put time and invest into other people's ideas because they want their own ideas to move forward, and you just end up in limbo.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, there's politics in any job. Like I worked in a movie theater in college. There were politics there too. But
popcorn politics.
My first job was at a restaurant, and there was politics between the cooks and the servers, and then the support staff, like the hostesses.
Right. I was a projectionist. There were politics between who got to build up the better movies, who got the choicer assignments. Valve, though, sounds like. And he made it clear this is not current, it's a few years back because he hasn't been at Valve for 5 years. And he also kind of fudged it a little bit that, I've worked at a lot of different companies, but clearly some of this is about Valve. And he made it sound like there is sort of an invisible cabal of, he called them barons, I think, of people who kind of run things, and you need the support of one of those people to get your shit done and to protect you from being fired, because he also made it sound like Valve is a very popular company. Everyone wants to work there. As such, you are replaceable and can be at any time. So it's the way the bonus structures are sort of organized. It's very competitive. So it's just there's a lot of things you have to navigate other than just making video games or, maintaining Steam or doing the boss's pet projects.
Right. Like suddenly it's like Gabe Newell comes in and says like, I really like VR. And everyone would be like, oh, well, as it happens, we love VR. We're working on VR right now. Yeah. And then the company shifts in in that sort of direction, which again makes sort of like free form, but it's not like a really solidified pipeline for any project.
Right. And it's also a privately held company, so you're going to do whatever the head of that company wants, like old Lucasfilm used to be. If George Lucas wanted to do something or start a new thing, he would write a check and it would happen. And so if Gabe Newell wants to do something, it gets done. And if he doesn't give a shit about Half-Life anymore, then no one gives a shit about Half-Life.
Was it this article that they mentioned Gabe Newell's just like, I just love Dota and he just plays Dota all the time?
I don't know that it was that one, but I know that has
Is that true?
come up.
Is that
I feel like I read that somewhere. Maybe that was like a Reddit comment or something.
But yeah, it's an interesting look into just sort of the dream of what a free-form company setup can look like, and then the reality of what can end up happening when you throw people into it, because people are imperfect.
Right.
And it makes it really difficult, really challenging. And it's another company that's seen a big shift with the advent of new technology and new ways of doing things. So basically, we're all getting old, and the good old days are just those, and we can't keep them around just because we'd like to. Unfortunately, everything else moves on around us and around them.
You're saying I need to get into streaming games.
Yeah.
And not physical copies.
I think if you wear a low-cut top, you're going to do really well. All right, that about does it for this episode of Glitch Please. If you're a Rooster Teeth First member, I hope you join us for New Game Plus. Also, keep an eye out for our PC build video. This thing is crazy. So we will
Wild.
have that going up. It is wild and colorful and awesome and very powerful. And so we will have that going up for you guys. We'll hope to see you at RTX Austin, August 3rd through 5th. Let us know in the comments if you're coming. I want to get an idea like who all we're going to be hanging out with, having some nice drinks, talking about video games and stuff.
Best.
It'll be a lot of fun. And again, make sure you check out New Game Plus exclusively on our website. If you're not a first member yet, you can get a 7-day free trial so you can check out the New Game Plus episodes as well as a bunch of our other first exclusive content. And we have a lot of fun announcements coming up during RTX as well. So you'll want to be a first member to take advantage to a lot of that stuff. All right, we'll see you next week. Go play some games.